Okay, so thanks Hugo. So he come to the last session in this segment. So we are glad to have Hieu from Microsoft. He is the cloud native senior technical specialist, and then today he will talk about the enterprise integration pattern for the OpenAPI initiatives. So Hieu, how are you? Fine.
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. So let's
Awesome.
see your screen. Okay, I can also see your screen and the animation here as well. Okay,
Ah,
so I pass the time to you.
right. Thanks very much, Patrick. So, hello to everyone. My name is Hieu. Currently, I'm the App Innovation Senior Specialist. I focus on, developing app, modernizing app with the enterprise customers within the region, and I'm pleased to be here with you today. So last year on API Days, I've had the pleasure of actually talking to you before, and that was a bit more hands-on in terms of demoing the landing zones, and then how do we actually do automations of all of the enterprise API infrastructure in an actual customers, and how do we actually integrate like Terraform and then APIM and then many different components together. So this year I thought like I would actually go a bit higher level, so not going too much technical, but actually talking about more about the Open API initiative and how do we actually work with that throughout the region with partners, and how do we provide the technologies for you to be able to be successful in your Open API journey. So the overall agenda is essentially, a bit of an overview on the Open API, what is the open banking, and then what are the problems that we're typically facing in terms of, addressing these, and then what are our technologies that can actually help you to accelerate, and then how do we actually target like a hybrid environment. So very quickly, I'm sure that you've seen this throughout the conference. So essentially, what is the API? So it's basically a way for one system to use another system directly. And it's typically like, these are based on JSON, XML, WebSocket, and gRPC. And effectively, there are standards for describing them like Swagger and OpenAPI, right? So what is OpenAPI specifically? Then when we are looking at OpenAPI, then traditionally we have like a closed API, which is residing within your network, how you not published to the internet, connecting your system together, and is sitting behind a proxy or a security layers. Secondly, is pretty much like the Open API, which is the new definitions where you are publishing this publicly, allowing your partners and your consumers to use them in their applications, and require an API-specific security layers like OpenID or OAuth 2, and then can be used to integrate with external partners, as well as can be a revenue-generating product. So what does this all do? So in the real world, in some of the examples, you could may as well have like a website providing some postage prices and tracking informations, really essential service for delivery. Or you could actually have a photo service that allows you to import photos from OneDrive. And then you could have like a travel website allowing you to buy flights and hotel and cars, book all of those services via that website or API. Or you can actually integrate with Uber via, a open API in order for you to upload your receipt to an expense system, right? So all these are kind of driven by APIs and partnerships. So the general theme of these is actually the platform economy. How do we actually simply leverage a ecosystem to actually reach a platform economy? How do we actually integrate all of this mesh of interconnected services and solutions? and be able to, connect all the people and all the Internet of Things and then algorithms in order to provide a kind of a unified experience. And basically, the business now, need to become the providers and the consumers, and be able to, provide all this unified experience in order to increase their presence in terms of the mindshare as well as integrations in the society. So in specific, these are the general open API initiative. So it often varies over the different industries. So we actually have the open retail, open healthcare, open banking initiatives. So it's more helpful if we are basing this off on a scenario, let's say open banking, right? So open banking, like first of all, a shout out to our Avanade partners, where they are actually working a lot on providing an end-to-end open banking solutions and working extensively with Microsoft in order to please the customers as well to provide a resilient solution in terms of open banking, right? So again, what is open banking? It's essentially a primary drive for improved customer satisfaction. So there has been a lot of regulations to force the bank to allow access to data. And then the creation of OpenAPI allow account holders to share the banking information securely with third party. So we have a lot of tractions with Avanade as well as other partners across the globe in order to work with the monetary authority of Singapore, or work with Hong Kong, or various other initiatives throughout Asia, Australia, and other regions, in order to provide this open banking APIs that can be integrated by all of the bank's partner ecosystem. So essentially, how does this all work? So there are actually open banking regulations define different types of third party that can participate in the system. Sorry. Yeah. So essentially, there is a. Let me actually turn this off. Okay. Watch these are that. All right, there you go. So essentially, there is three parties where you have like the bank itself, where the place where your account with money resides, and then you have the aggregations or information service that can connect to the bank and provide your information and insights on top of your bank. How much should you invest, and then like how much should you save, and how much is your saving can last you for. So. And then you can have the payment services, where it's a company that allows the transferring of your money from one place to another. So that can be consumer to retailer, or just simply from your consumer to another consumer. Right? So a lot of these open API or open banking initiative actually brings new challenges. For example, how do you host an API publicly that's still controlling the access? Need to be able to manage different versions of your APIs, need to be able to store the data at scale, and then need to be able to process update in near real time, as well as being able to post notifications to partners and be able to actually run it reliably, right? So new challenges requires a new technology solutions. So in essence, then we have all of the ingredients for you to actually provide a successful open API solutions for your customers as well as your partners to be able to integrate with your system, right? So with as you can see, like with agile technologies like API management, or the serverless technologies like functions, Logic App, Kubernetes, then we can actually integrate and also connect with your existing system of record and be able to surface all of these existing data store that you have, may it be on premise or on Azure or on another cloud, in order to provide this unified experience for your end customers, right? So if we were to talk a bit more specific into the Open API and Open Banking initiative, then when you look at the overall API architecture, right, you have kind of many different form factors. For example, IoT, and then customer apps, and then omnichannel that will be able to connect to your API. So your API is no longer just REST API, right? They can be SOAP for legacy system, and then they can be WebSocket or any other protocol. So being able to provide this consistent, experience, and being able to also connect and play well with the EMP, ESP, or with the integration layer like Logic App or App Services, then we can actually obfuscate all of the core API of the bank, or of a telco, or of a retail core system, so that all of these will have a consistent sort of experience that also address like many various areas, such as monetizations. How do you do catalog? How do you do API exposure? What are the protocol that you need to expose under, like OAuth 2? And then how do you actually direct the traffic if one region goes down or one zone goes down? And how do you actually do the data transformation so that all of the data are consistent and not one place is SOAP, one place is REST? So all of these actually are addressed by Azure API management. So if we were to, for example, look into a typical bank system, then we would actually be able to see, like, there is a consumer, consumer banking and merchant, where you have actually a lot of clients applications like the web, mobile, POS, and kiosk. And then there is a need for identity, need for monitoring, and how do you connect these to all the on-premise or the partners SaaS system? So and then there is a concerns around like the data management, aggregations, as well as analytics and public-private marketplace, for example. So that's why we are working a lot with Avanade and other partners in order to provide these consistent architecture, as well as automations in terms of landing zones, in order to target these common asks, right? So there would be automations for you to simply deploy a system that actually interacts with your Azure identity and security management, and then an API management that is fronting all of your APIs, and that simply also interact with your database, as well as being able to log all of these events inside a stream analytics and be able to provide a data lake solutions and analysis, and also you can use Power BI for reporting, right? So this, as you've seen previously across the world, we have been doing this consistently with many partners. So in the new scheme of things, when we actually talk about Azure integration services, and then not only that we are talking about the product itself, but we are also talking about, like, how do we actually templatize this inside a packaged solution that actually provides you with a ready to deploy and ready to run sort of solution for all of our FSI and other industries for their OpenAPI needs, right? So before we actually address those, then it's important to lay down the new Azure Integration Service Enterprise iPaaS view. So where we actually divide this into 4 main areas. We have the expositions, which is the API management, and then we have the processing, which is simply the backend, where you are able to use Logic App or Azure Functions as the serverless technologies to be able to connect to different to different systems and being able to auto scale, infinitely scale. And then next we have the data movement layers, so you can actually extract, transform, and load data in bulk with Data Factory. And then we have our messaging platform where you have event grid and for PubSub, and then you have like a service bus, enterprise service bus. And then we have Event Hub for massive data ingestions, right? So in essence, then API management is simply a key for digital business ecosystem, where you are able to address your end users, so that you're able to have something like Power Apps that provides them with a simple mean to create a line of business app as well as a client app, and that would be able to integrate with others technologies like API management, connectors with Logic App, AI builders, Dataverse, and then how do we also address the IT pros by being able to provide toolings such as Azure Arc and Azure Stack that enables them to deploy all of these infrastructure into not only Azure but also other clouds. And we have a unified experience, so that allows you to develop your solutions on Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio family, and as well as contributed to a common repository like GitHub or Azure DevOps. So one of a few last things where I want to touch base is that all of our services that I have described before, not only being able to run on Azure, but it's also being able to address some of the open banking concerns like data sovereignty and all of that by being able to be provisioned within your data center or on another private cloud. So take, for example, this is Azure, and then you have an on-premise data centers, and then you have the other private clouds that are also running some of your solutions. How do you actually provide a API gateway that doesn't traverse through Azure every time? So we do actually provide a self-hosted gateway, which is a container that you can actually deploy inside your premises under a VM that actually has Docker or under Kubernetes clusters. And essentially, this will be able to kind of provide a self-hosted gateway on your hybrid environment, right? So all of these gateways will be synchronized. All of the OpenAPI sort of configurations as well as policies. And once it's all synchronized, then those will be able to actually serve traffic from across the globe, right? So this is scalable solutions that allows you to span from Azure also to other places outside of Azure. So this doesn't confine within APIM alone, right? So when we are actually talking about the Azure Applications Platform, for example, you heard me mentioning a lot about API management. Then there is also other offering like Azure App Service or Functions App or Logic App. So all of these now will being able to actually integrate with Azure Arc. We are able to bring all of those services that you know and love on Azure to your data centers or another private cloud, right? So this has been a great kind of investments in order to also address the customer where they are. So being able to bootstrap not only on on Azure on premise, but also on IoT edge devices and also on the multi-cloud. So yeah, this is just to show that we are ready to work with you, being able to helped you out in providing kind of automations and landing zone and all of the various artifacts to be able to address the open banking problems. And we are able to also, help you out into providing this hybrid experience that also connect your Azure data center with all of your other data centers together to provide a unified experience. So, yeah, I hope that has been helpful to you. This presentation of mine is about the higher level and the overall pictures of how the integrations offering of Azure can help you out. So if you love to look more about further resources, you can actually follow the link for aka.ms APIM Love, or you can go to the Azure Microsoft.com APIs and microservices. Right. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thanks, Hieu, for your sharing. So you share quite a lot of the enterprise pattern, and also especially on the cloud and hybrid cloud as well. So he come to some questions. So in Hong Kong, maybe talking about the enterprise, not only talking about banks, but also traditional enterprise like insurance. So we do heard some of those questions talk about some struggle how to move from those traditional infrastructure to hybrid cloud or public cloud, etc. So do you have any quick suggestion talking about how they can move the first step, especially if talking about the open API? So they may involve some sensitive informations, and then they have some well-established policy, scaling policy. So do you have one or two quick tips for them to bootstrap their first one or two steps?
Yeah, that's a very great question. So, I mean, in terms of the first step into migrations, we often actually do a segregations of the API first on which one is actually critical, which one is internal, which one is actually external, right? So, and then we would actually need to work a lot with the customers on what are the projects that you need to actually move first, and with API management in general, that is not like an intrusive system where you need to kind of rewrite a lot of your system in order to work with API management, right? You can simply expose your application as a REST endpoint, either publicly or privately, and then API management, as long as it has a line of sight into your applications, then that's already enough. So previously, when we didn't have the self-hosted containers, then there was a concern of going through Azure to on-premise. But now that's no longer a concern, and basically, we can also target the internal API so that we just provide a container and then kind of a facade between the internal applications with the other internal system via API management. So you can simply have a OpenAPI or a Swagger file and then just import it into APIM. That's already your first step, to be able to access those API using an APIM endpoint, right? And then on top of that, when you have networking, you provide some JWT, some policies, some rate limiting, and some telemetries, so that you can see now what is the traffic look like for all of your internal system and external system. And that is simply, it's a very quick step to get started on the journey.
Okay. So maybe I think you have also touched a bit on the integration side. So another common question that we heard from the community is talking about some legacy integrations. So because this is always difficult to move something that was working before, although there may be some benefit talking about OpenAPI initiative. So talking about those legacy integrations, some of the community they need to source a lot of different kind of product that it may be too bulky for them to invest at this moment. So do you have other quick thoughts or some lesson learned talking about that kind of legacy integration and how we can access those people with similar problem in the community?
All right, so the question's about how to actually integrate with those legacy systems, right?
Yeah.
So I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I probably would echo a bit of my previous answer in the sense like
Yep.
some of these integrations with the APIM and providing a facade on top of what is already working is actually is non-intrusive, and you don't need to rewrite anything. But the benefit that it provides you is that all of your APIs will be actually monitored now through API management, and you can impose additional policies. And you can also, and you can also actually have kind of a developer portal that actually automatically generates all of the documentations on your APIs. So the benefit is a lot, and also it's not actually breaking your existing legacy system, but it's just provide like a monitoring and then developer portal and then additional policies. So when you have those, right, then you can actually start to gradually modernize your legacy system, for example. Then when you have 10 APIs domain, then you can actually develop one more domain. And then you can actually use API management to actually provide a /v2 version. And then that /v2 would be actually pointing to a modernized stack that you have of that legacy system. So now APIM is actually phasing out your modernization journey so that it would actually provide a very structured approach on how your customer would move onto the new system, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks Hieu for the quick question and answer. So I think this is also quite inspirational, inspiring to our audience, especially talking about those maybe integrations with legacy systems, etc. So once again, thanks Hieu for your support.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, thank you. So here we will conclude our